Back to the story, we just had the film on there. We're joined now by the author and journalist Kate Welsh. Welcome to the programme. Recent free speech rankings survey by Spite said that 94% of UK universities have censored free speech in the past year. Some have no platform, people like Germaine Greer, Roger Scruton, and a human rights activist called Miriam Namazi. Are you happy with that?
I don't believe it's censorship. I believe that freedom of speech is also freedom to accept the consequences of that speech. And if that means that certain institutions don't want to promote or give you a platform to say these things, then you have to accept that.
Really?
Yes, I do.
That's not curtailing freedom of speech?
No, I don't think it is. People like Germaine Greer.
But you've just taken away the freedom of these people to speak at the university.
They can speak wherever they like, but freedom of speech is not freedom to be invited wherever you want.
What's the point of a university if you don't allow a variety of views to be expressed?
A variety of views, that's absolutely fine.
Well, clearly not if you're Germaine Greer.
I think if students are being asked to pay increasingly higher fees, and I think that if they object to people like Germaine Greer, Julie Bindel, Milo Yiannopoulos being given frequently pretty hefty speaking fees themselves and be given a platform at their university, then I think they have a right.
Julie Bindel doesn't take fees for that. Julie Bindel does not take fees, and she has worked for 30 years raising awareness of violence against women and done so, you know, thanklessly. And for her to be barred from universities simply because she has a different view to you or some of the people in that university about transgender issues is a disgrace, as it is with Peter Tatchell.
Hold on. To
say that they're getting money for it, it's absolutely legal.
Kate Welsh.
I think Julie Bindel has done some fantastic things for women's issues. I will not decry that. I do believe that she has frequently incited hatred against transgender people, and that puts...
But she hasn't. She's defended transgendered people. I've heard her do it. She's done it to me. I've spoken to her about it. She's defended transgender people where all she does is cleave to the notion, which is actually a scientific fact, whether you like it or not, which is that someone who has transitioned from a man to a woman is still technically, essentially, if you wish to call it, essentially a man.
The issue is not what is right or wrong here. The issue is, shouldn't you be able to hear the views on both sides of the argument? And you can't if you ban people. I mean, the Lincoln University, a student union, it banned the University Conservative Association from social media because the association had pointed out that the university had a low ranking when it came to free speech. I mean, this is getting ridiculous.
I don't think that's on the same par as criticising who's being invited to speak at universities, or to say that a democratically elected student union preferring not to sell papers like the Daily Mail.
But why would you do it at all?
Why are you scared?
I'm not remotely scared.
Well, I know, but isn't a university exactly the place where there should be this cross-fertilisation of ideas, of political opinions, a breadth of informed opinion, of contentious opinion, of things which you might find difficult to accept, and things which I might find difficult to accept? That's what we should have at universities. Surely that's the point of it.
But freedom of speech and freedom of expression for minority groups has traditionally been oppressed or made difficult to access by people who criticise their ability to exist, like Julie Bindel with trans people, Milo Yiannopoulos.
She doesn't criticise their ability to exist.
No, we've been around that.
We've been around that.
Yeah. The principal issue here is not the rights or the wrongs of any of these issues. It is that the university, if you're lucky enough to get to one, is one of the few times in your life when you can go along and hear every view under the sun. But in fact, what is happening now is that views are being channeled into a very narrow tunnel. And if you're outside of that with your views, you don't get in.
I think it's a very exciting time to be a student right now. I graduated 10 years ago. We didn't, the progressive movement that's flowering now was really only in bud then. But I think students are turning around and saying no to bigotry and no to hate speech.
Well, they can go along to meetings and say that.
It's only a minority who are doing that. It's the minority in the students' unions who are doing that. And I speak as someone with a kid who's at university who says, actually, all this rubbish, this idiocy, this politically correct nonsense, has no purchase whatsoever amongst a wider student body. It has a purchase only amongst the perennially active, amongst the political groups within there. And don't forget as well,
generally
Andrew,
people from oppressed groups. Please remember that.
Universities
have always been a safe space for straight white men. What we're seeing now is an increase of levelling the playing field for other voices to be heard, and that will mean removing the platform from one person and giving it to somebody else.
City University,
a gay woman, you remove it from a gay woman.
City University in London, which runs a well-known journalism course, voted to ban the Daily Mail, the Sun, and the Express. What's the point of that? Nobody, you don't have to read these papers. Why would you ban them?
When you're on a journalism course, that's fabulous.
I think Daily Mail and journalism don't always go hand in hand.
No, that's your view. That's just your view. That doesn't give you the right to vote for banning them.
Their students from buying it anywhere else. They're saying in this specific
campus, where people are studying journalism. I mean, if you don't like Daily Mail journalism, I perfectly understand that. Journalists should know what, in your view, is bad journalism.
It's a commercial boycott. It's perfectly acceptable.
You have to remember as well, Andrew, that it's not just the students. There was the Adam Smith Institute report recently, which suggested that I think it was 85% of university lecturers tended to the left, were liberals, tended to the left.
Sure, but that's always been the case.
That's regularly always been the case.
Pretty much.
Back in the 60s, they did this comparison, it was something like 60%. So still a majority, but nothing like the hegemony within those universities now is all from this sort of left, liberal, censorious, intolerant and authoritarian...
Well, that's your view, I suppose, as well.
Well, yes, I just said it.
Yeah, but
Kylie Morris talking to the EU's Federica Mogherini. Well, I'm joined now from New York by the Trump supporter and Conservative commentator Ann Coulter. Welcome to the programme again. Why do you think Donald Trump keeps saying the security of our nation is at stake when the judges have made it absolutely clear that the government has presented no evidence that any alien from any of the countries named in the order has perpetrated an attack on the United States?
Well, two things. The judges can say that, but it isn't true. It isn't true at all. In fact, two of the famous cases just in the last year, the Somali who started stabbing people and running them over at Ohio State University, and then at Christmas time, the Somali refugee who started stabbing people at a shopping mall.
You're not going to start talking about the Bowling Green massacre, are you?
Quite recent. I was the one who first introduced that to the world, and no, I know what happened since I found out about it from reading the court transcripts and writing about it, including in my book, Adios Americas. So point one, the court's factual finding is wrong. Point two, it is not up to the court to make this factual finding. And it may sound like this is some horrible defeat for the president to untrained ears, but, you know, there are 1,000 judges. The Ninth Circuit is the most overruled circuit, and the law is absolutely unequivocally clear that it is the president who sets immigration policy. The courts have found that over and over and over again, that it is an extension of foreign policy. This is absolutely within the president's discretion. We don't need to hear from any federal judges on this, but we do have a lot of lawless judges. And
well, the judges make it clear it's not.
Just because they go last doesn't make them more important than the president.
I don't know whether
the president has powers that courts don't.
Yeah, I don't know whether you're a lawyer, but I mean, these judges are, and they're
Yes,
pretty clear that, you know, the idea that a presidential order on immigration can't be reviewed just isn't true. I mean, look, we'll see when this goes to the Supreme Court. But the wider question is about Trump's relationship with the truth. Because as days go on, it's more and more clear that what comes out of the president and his administration just can't be trusted. And, you know, you have to wonder whether at first you thought it was maybe he just doesn't know, maybe these are just mistakes. But now it's starting to look deliberate. It's starting to look like deliberate misinformation.
Well, that just, without any specific example. I mean, I just had to
let me give you a few.
The judges on a factual claim. You just repeated something that is factually untrue, that no one from these countries, I mean, there are dozens of them, have been arrested and convicted for committing terrorism, and plus which, it doesn't matter.
Well, I look forward to you sending me the list of dozens.
This is part of the president's...
I mean, let's take a, you know, if you take the Pulitzer Prize winning
Will you
PolitiFact,
read them? Wait, will you agree right
who
now
are
to read them?
renowned fact checkers.
Will you read
if you
them
look
on
at
air?
their
I
score,
mean, you make this snotty little remark.
No,
I'd be perfectly happy to send you not only dozens
send them over.
of cases,
Do send them over.
of convictions. No, you're just being snotty and sarcastic.
No, I'm trying to. Let's get to the
cases.
questions. I mean, look,
And
the point
I'll get
is,
you to a factual case that does not require. I just gave you two. When anyone in America, certainly, I'm
when
surprised
Donald
you don't know
Trump
about the
said the
Ohio
murder rate
State
in our
University
country is the highest
stabbing,
it's been in 47
or the
years.
St. Cloud Mall stabbing, I can also give you two cases that I think you ought to remember. They were certainly big cases in America. One was the president sending home Elian Gonzalez to Cuba. The court found, yes, he will be persecuted in Cuba, but immigration is solely the discretion of the president.
Okay, let's just look at some of the Trump untruths. No, hang on. Don't just keep talking. I want to ask you some questions. If you look at PolitiFact, the fact-checking website, I mean, they score Donald Trump's truthfulness extremely badly. I mean, the murder rate in our country is the highest it's been in 47 years, he said. Completely untrue. I've already saved more than $700 million when I got involved in the negotiation on the F-35. Mostly false. When he claimed that the media doesn't deliberately report on terrorist attacks around the world, it was nonsense. I mean, you can keep saying he tells the truth. It's clear to everybody else he doesn't.
No, I rate PolitiFact mostly false. So first, you have already given two false facts. Well, three, actually. We have the two I just mentioned. Yes, there have been terrorist attacks from these people. And yes, it is solely the president's prerogative in the little package that came on before I went on.
That's an argument. It's not a fact.
Absolutely.
That's a legal argument. It's not a fact.
Unprecedented. It is a fact that the Supreme Court has said the precise words that immigration, as an extension of the president's foreign policy, it is up to the president. They have said, and I just gave you two famous cases, so you don't have to look up the case law.
Well, address the one on murder.
Law,
what about the murder claim?
The Elian Gonzalez case.
What about the murder claim?
Well, how about the claim that you're
was it true?
That
was it true?
Said months ago, and it was true. And you know what was untrue?
True.
That you just told your viewers. You just told your viewers that it's unprecedented for a president to attack judges. Obama did it at the State of the Union address, attacking judges. I mean, this idea we have President Trump all over magazines with crosshairs of an assassination target on his face, but we can't criticize these precious judges. No, liberals like judges because they're not elected and they can just invent stuff and say, oh, we read it in the Constitution.
But the question is whether it's presidential, whether it's appropriate for the leader of the free world. The reason it upsets so many people in Britain is because Britain loves America, or many people in Britain love America, and when the president appears to be tweeting about Nordstrom and his daughter's range of clothes, rather than the very serious problems that there are in the world and the terrible terrorist attack in Canada that he still hasn't mentioned anywhere, people find that really worrying. And you don't seem to find it at all embarrassing. That's what's surprising.
No, to the contrary. I've criticized him on the Nordstrom tweet, too. No, we shouldn't have done that. Congratulations. You got one. But you did misstate a fact that is certainly not slowing him down from defending America. He's a bundle of activity, and he's able to impose these travel restrictions and fight with the court and nominate a Supreme Court justice. Oh, he can do it all and send out a mildly inappropriate tweet.
Do you think he will be offended by what's been said to him about his British trip? That the Speaker of the House of Commons doesn't want him anywhere near addressing the House in the way Barack Obama did. Will he care?
No, I don't think his feelings will be hurt. I think he'll get over it. He's the leader of the free world.
Care about
He's
appearances,
protecting America.
I mean, he does want this visit. He's talked about how important Britain is and the special relationship.
Yeah, it is.
So
it is. Britain is an important ally. And you just gave, I think, 6 false facts. You claim that the British are appalled by Trump. Well, according to the polls I see, they like that. They're more in favor of this travel
British
ban
people.
than even Americans
I won't claim to speak for my country, but a lot of people are appalled. That's pretty clear. Whether it's a majority or not, who knows?
A lot of people are appalled about everything. To be acting like you're speaking for the British people and you're appalled by Trump, no, that is manifestly not true. My guess is you thought they were appalled by the Brexit vote, too.
Do you think...
And yet it passed.
But do you think the way this first most important executive order on the travel ban was well handled? Because, I mean, you know, we've now learned an awful lot about how it was executed, the extent to which Donald Trump really was aware of precisely what was going on, the extent to which Steve Bannon was involved in it. I mean, do you think it was handled professionally? Or do they need to learn, you know, from this and do things better?
No, the only thing they need to learn, and boy, have they learned it, is that there will be massive resistance to anything Trump tries to do on immigration, which was the main reason he was elected president in a shocking victory. I mean, for Pete's sake, he's never held elective office. He's this sort of wild, brash billionaire. It's not like Americans looked around the country and said, let's put a reality TV star in the White House. No, it was because of his positions on immigration that have been ignored by both political parties and the media for decades and decades. And there is going to be massive resistance for every little thing he does. And this was a very little thing. And there was some confusion for a while in the press about whether Obama had in fact, imposed the same travel ban for 6 months.
That wasn't true either, was it?
At some point on Syria. I didn't say it was. Perhaps you reported it. Maybe that's another false fact I'm getting from you guys. I'm just saying that it wasn't an insane extension, because these are the 7 countries designated as terrorist countries, or as Madeleine Albright changed the terminology, countries of particular concern. These are the 7 terrorist countries designated by Hillary Clinton's State Department under Obama. To have a 2-month travel pause? I mean, this is the mildest
We've got to leave it there. We've got to have a pause.
Like
I hope it won't be 2 months before you come back. Ann Coulter, thank you very much.
When it comes to 3-year-old Jalen, Bobby, you are not...
She said she loved me, whatever that hell no. Doing me a favor, say